Some content or topics discussed could trigger a past anxiety or be sensitive or disturbing to listen to or view. Please view and listen with caution.
Welcome back to Walking Tall. If you were with us last week, we were so honored to be able to share the stage with Miss Jamie Raichbrook. Jamie being one of our biggest supporters and ambassadors of the Walking Tall movement and a veteran of our great nation. She shared some great insight and had some unfortunate experiences that impacted us all. And I know you, Dr. LaRosa, getting to meet Jamie and hearing her story of service and trauma and mental health awareness and advocacy certainly uplifted you. So I'd love to hear some of your takeaways from Jamie.
She's just such an inspirational woman, and she's strong and she's insightful, and she's connected to her trauma and her difficult experiences, just as she is to the positives in her life. And you could see that she's been through a lot she's put a lot of work into her personal growth and the place that she is in life. And another amazing example of how someone has turned that pain and suffering and difficult times into strength that enables her to walk tall and have this desire to help others. So yes, inspirational is putting it very mildly. I have a lot of respect and regard for her and everything that she has done for not only herself and her own mental health journey, but for our country as well. It's a very brave lady.
Yeah, no, and Todd, I know you have a great affection for our servicemen and women and first responders, and getting to meet her and hear her story certainly impacted you, as we talked offline a little bit. And I know you've gotten to speak with her one-on-one as well. So I know you have some thoughts and some words about Jamie, as I do, but I'd love to hear yours first.
Yeah, no, I think what Dr. LaRosa just said, I mean, I reiterate that. I love her passion. I love her advocacy for mental health and taking care of her family, her military family, and she learned the hard way. You know, she went through a lot of that process, and she's learned how to navigate through and cut corners. And she's basically telling everybody, "Hey, learn from my story. I'm here to tell it, and people should listen." You know, she's a pretty powerful woman and a powerful veteran, and I just can't thank her enough for everything that she's doing, just to impact someone's life that might be struggling. So yeah, true power player in the space. So it was really cool having her on.
Yeah, she's special beyond words. And,
Yeah.
long ago, part of, what we're attempting to do with our movement, right, is connect people with like experiences that can help each other, right? Todd, just like you helped me through my experience and continue to do so, we want to help others connect with relatable experiences. And I was fortunate to come across a veteran long ago who I thought would benefit from getting to know Jamie. And Jamie followed up with me a week or so ago and let me know that, she's developed a relationship with this person over the last 6 to 8 months. And where this person was when I first met them is not where they are today. They're thriving. They've gained access to the benefits that they needed and deserved due to their service. And none of that would have been possible without Jamie's help. And so, those are the types of stories we love to hear on here on the Walking Tall movement. And we want to keep connecting people like Jamie with those that need it most. And as we transition away from her, I use the word special. I told you both she was special beyond words, and that holds true. But today is also another special day. And I don't often like to talk about myself. Okay, maybe at times I do. But today's my birthday. And, I thought that today would be a great opportunity for the three of us to just discuss, the aging process on our mental health, and how, as the years go by and we have 365 days around the suns as humans, what does that do to us? Both from a scientific perspective, Dr. LaRosa, and then from Todd and I's perspective, having dealt with various types of trauma, over the years and whatnot. I thought we could just kick it off, Dr. LaRosa, real briefly, like, what happens to our brain, as the decades go by, and how do we develop, and what impact does that take onto our own mental health? You're muted.
Well, okay.
Yes.
I couldn't get
It's
through.
an official show. It's an
Yeah.
official show.
You know, that's a huge question that would take much longer than the time that we have spent together today to answer. But, you know, in short sum, you know, as people age, a variety of things happen to their processing abilities and types of intelligence. Our intelligence is broken up, you know, very basically into fluid and crystallized intelligence. So if you think about crystallized, that's like our vocabulary, that's all of our stored knowledge, that's all the stuff that makes us wise. If you think about a wise old person, that tends to increase with age, actually. Wow, what a surprise, right? It's pretty common sense.
I think mine's declining.
It could be. The fluid intelligence, which is really your abstract problem solving, faster processing type abilities, that tends to decrease as people age. And you know, these types of intelligences are intertwined. It's not like one is on and the other's off, and you know, and vice versa. So you know, this happens, and you know, in this fast-paced society, you know, it's difficult for people when they age, because people don't have a lot of patience and a lot of tolerance for the elderly. And that's one of my strong pet peeves in life. Like, you know, if I'm at the supermarket and I see an elderly person, you know, taking out their wallet, looking for their coupons, you know, I'll be the first one to sit there as patiently as possible. It's those people that start huffing and puffing and, you know, slamming things around, getting annoyed that the person's taking too long, that irritates my soul. And, you know, I'm one of those people, I don't really say much, and I'm a pretty calm person, you know, but there are times like that where I really do get riled up, you know, and I've said things in public, you know, I've said, you know, we're all gonna
She's a
get there.
fighter.
Let's be
Yeah.
calm, you know. I say it in a nice way, but you know, people don't always like to hear someone else's opinion. But you know, there's just a few things in life that really irritate me that I'll feel I have to speak out on. But it's a normal part of the aging process. And it's just so important that people, you know, allow the elderly to take the time that they need to process things in the way that they need to. They deserve that respect and regard, you know. But as far as things like depression, you know, depression occurs, you know, mostly in the 18 to 29, you know, age group,
Got it.
like in general. But there is an increase as people age, and there's a variety of factors. One factor that really is pinpointed with the increase in depression is social isolation and loneliness.
You know,
So
actually, Dr. Rosa, hold that thought if you don't
yeah.
mind, because
Mhm.
we'll get to that.
Sure.
You know, but Todd, I want to just, you know, kind of piggyback on what Dr. LaRosa was saying. And as she was speaking about, you know, the crystallized, and I'm sorry, Dr. LaRosa, the second type was called what?
Fluid,
Again,
fluid.
fluid. So yeah, crystallized and fluid, right? I think about athletes like yourself and you know who I used to be, right? We also lose like athleticism. So as our mind is starting to change, our body that we've relied on for so much of our lives is also, you know, declining, deteriorating, doing different things. But I'd love to hear, you know, your take on what Dr. LaRosa said, you know, being as big and strong and as athletic of a dude as you are, you know, that crystallized and that fluid. What's your takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, the crystallized kind of memory piece definitely resonates. I think, you know, especially as a father of older kids, I call them kids because I think they're still kids. They're still going through school where you're wise. You've developed skill sets that they don't quite have yet. Um, but the fluid piece, I think, is interesting. I think what you're touching on the athleticism part, you know, I mean, right here, you know, I still think I can go out and perform, but
Me
I
too.
know physically I can't. And that's another part too, like, you know, on the mental aspect, as an adult, as somebody that's responsible for your household, all the different responsibilities. So from like your 20s where life was much more simplified and you had a job and maybe you have a girlfriend and it turns into a marriage and young, you know, there's less on your shoulders younger as you, and then as you grow up, and then all of a sudden you get to like my age and now there's a lot on your shoulders and you have kids going to college and you have your
Hmm.
jobs and all these different things and responsibilities. And I think mentally that aging process kind of gets to you, because at some point you want to stop all that, right? You want to be able to get on a boat and go, float around somewhere or whatever, or hang out. And I think for me, the mental aspect of aging has more to do with getting through this kind of time of chaos with your kids going all over the place. And it's fun, but then let me get to the next chapter where I'm a little bit more relaxed. And
Mm-hmm.
the memory piece, like Vanetta said, it drives me crazy when people don't have patience for our elderly. I mean,
Yep.
I have a grandma that's 94 now, and she's starting to show signs of dementia and things like that. And I just love listening to her. So that's the other part where I'm at. Like, I'm trying to grab onto those crystallized memories of her and learn like how she is, because that's how I want to be when I'm that age, hopefully, at
Yeah.
190.
Mhm.
So
I hope you would live that long, my man. And I'm similar, right? But different. I think um, as I get older, I want to have more freedoms, right? I want to express myself maybe differently and have a different perspective on life. But I also have this like juxtaposition of like I'm also getting near the end of my life with every year that goes by, right? And so that mentally, I have this balance that I struggle with because I love life, and I don't ever want it to end. I want to live it to be 290, Todd, but there's all these different things. And then you add trauma into the mix, or Dr. LaRose, as you were saying, mental health hurdles and issues, that can come on at any time, like it happened to you or I, Todd, or depression, as you said, Dr. LaRosa, in that younger demographic. And so, Dr. LaRosa, I ask you, what impact does trauma have on the aging process? And when folks go through something like Todd or I may have gone through, or some of our guests in previous shows, what does that do to the old brain?
Well, you've heard me talk about the cumulative effects of stress, anxiety, trauma, depression, and these memory for experiences is also a type of memory, right? So if you think about it just in practical terms, as people age, they tend to lose a lot. They lose their spouse, they lose their siblings, they lose their friends, they lose their lifelong connections. Life changes, right? And so when you have a variety of psychosocial stressors that are constantly pounding you and impacting your ability to thrive, it's just very normal and natural to think about anxiety increasing, depressive symptoms increasing, and it becomes a lot of times intolerable for people. And that's why, a lot of the research leads back to isolation, loneliness, lack of activity as a risk factor for, developing, clinical depression. And it's something that we all have to be aware of. Our communities really need to do a better job with, finding active programming for the greatest generation, as we constantly refer them, in my house. But late life depression is real, and it affects about maybe I think the last number I saw was at least 6 million, elderly adults. But what's important about that is that they don't really get the treatment that they need. They're less likely to seek out treatment for their depression. They just think it's par for the course, part of their life, situational, or their age, or their financial ability to get therapy
Mm-hmm.
is lacking. And so, less than 10% of that population actually gets the help that they need. So that's pretty sad, and then when you add, depression due to medical illnesses on top of that, you have even more to worry about, because, things like stroke can affect your biochemical processes in the brain and can actually cause depression. It's due to a medical condition, but still, nevertheless, the symptoms are still felt the same, and so the risk for, medically induced depression, also increases. So, they're dealing with a lot.
Yeah, no, it's true. And Todd, you mentioned, your grandmother who bless her heart, is still alive and kicking at 94, I think you said. And, I just experienced the loss of my grandmother, a little over a year or so ago, and she did have full-blown dementia and was in a facility, right? And I could also see, as she deteriorated over time and the level of care she needed increased. But when I say care, I mean physical care. I would say the empathy decreased. And, I think as part as we age, and I'm in my 40s and we're all young, like by no means are the three of us old yet. But you could just see as you mentioned, Dr. LaRosa, the patients, for the elderly and those types of things is present. And it's so sad. And Todd, hearing what your grandmother is going through and how much of a stand-up guy you are for her, but also I want to hear your perspective. Like I asked Dr. LaRosa the question of trauma, right? And as you've aged, since your experience en route, you've had birthdays and have celebrated, thankfully, but where have you been maybe before and now where are you at with aging, since your traumatic experience?
Well, I think, when you talk about trauma, I think the more separated you get from the actual impact, you learn, as long as you're doing the work, right, with it, you learn how to navigate your trauma and bob and weave around it. I talk about it, like
Yep.
for me, I get anxiety when I go into a large crowded place, constantly looking at exit points and things. But over time, I've learned to identify the spidey senses that hit me, and I'm able to separate when I need to. And so I've learned how to control my anxiety to a point. I mean, there's still incidences
Sure.
where I know I need to get away from something a little bit quicker than I maybe just going into the bathroom into a silent place or just stepping away or just going through breathing exercises. So I think the maturity of time allows you to do that. And I don't know
Yep.
if that's necessarily an aging thing, but definitely the coping skills and everything that you learn over time. And I think just the patience that you have as you get older and the more maturity you have allows you to process your trauma a little bit easier, right? I'm more acceptable to change at this point in my life. And I think you have to be vulnerable, right? That's a huge piece of it. You have
Of
to be able
course.
to want to change. You have to identify where you're at. I don't want to live my latter part of my life in total chaos and everything. So I want to be better. You have to want that yourself, right? I think that's a big part of it. I talked to had a conversation last night with somebody that was at my experience in Las Vegas, and you can tell that that individual was really struggling still today, and I struggle as well. Like I think we all do. And any type of trauma, you have some sort of spark every day that maybe triggers a memory or whatever it may be. But this person was really struggling, and he's gone through EMDR. He's gone through all this stuff. And one of the comments he was making was, I just hope as I get older, this kind of like gets easier, right? So his mindset, it's aging is going to help him with his trauma.
Interesting.
But we're both in the same, we both were there at the same night. He was actually around me doing the same stuff, and it's the first person that I've really met in person, and it was pretty cool to talk with. But we
Amazing.
both were getting goosebumps when we were talking about certain areas that we were both in, and he could relate to me, and I could relate to him. Um, but I'm probably 12 years older than he is, right?
And
And
much better looking, by the way.
much better. No, I'm just
But
kidding.
actually,
But
Todd,
that's the age part. So yeah.
yeah, no, listen, you know what? I'm first off, I'm glad you got to meet that person. And I hope that you're able to help them as you helped me. But what I would say to that, and what I heard from you was unfortunate, right? That it sounds to me as if that person just believes that through the course of nature, and maybe it is so and true, that they will just heal over time naturally, right? Whereas I know somebody like you, and to maybe a lesser degree, me, have put in the work, right? Like we've put the work in to heal. We didn't want to wait for time, right? We didn't want to just heal naturally. Like we wanted to live our life today. And so, Dr. LaRosa, I guess I would want to know, like, if you got to know, like if Todd and I were in our 20s and had our experiences compared to us being in our 40s or 50s, you know, what would that maybe look like differently, knowing what you know about maturation, the crystallization of skill sets and all those things? You know, where would we be maybe?
With the trajectory of life, you know, that's almost impossible to predict because, you know, at whatever age you are, trauma doesn't follow a timeline. You know, we've known people who experience a trauma and they're trying to work it through, and then two or three more hit them, you know, right away.
Mhm.
Age can't be controlled, you know, as a factor in
Fair.
experiencing
I
traumatic
guess I was just wondering if there was
experience.
like studies or statistics that would show, because one who is aged has experienced, as Todd was mentioning, more in life, has greater coping skills, has maybe already experienced the traumatic experience because of their age, is there greater success rate? I don't even know if there's a success rate to be had. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, there's too many variables to put into a cohesive
Fair.
research study in that regard, you know, but if you think about as people age, you know, the incidence for you know, neurocognitive impairments increase, you know, and what does the interference to processing ability have on working through a trauma under those conditions versus not having that mild cognitive impairment? You know, there's medication, you know, effects, you know, and
Fair.
when you're older, you tend to be on more medications. Effects of those medications may impact mental health in a variety of ways. So yeah, there's so many factors. I wish I could answer that a little bit better, but
No,
yeah,
that's you know, it's a loaded question on my part, and that's why I'm in the role I am, because I get to ask the hard
you
questions. And
know,
you, no, but
I
you know,
mean,
and go ahead, yeah, go ahead, doctor.
oh, there are things we do know, you know, that the elderly, you know, if and when they experience, you know, depression, you know, there's also greater risk for cardiac disease and even death from cardiac disease. You know, it tends to have a a more fatal impact, you know, later in life.
Yeah.
That's something that's known.
Well, listen, you know, I think for the first half of the show, we've done an admirable job of scaring everybody about aging, right? Like all the negative impacts and all. So I want to kind of flip the switch and you know, talk about the excitement, the good things of aging, right? Like it's as we started to plan today's show, it wasn't by accident. I posted this poster of mine from 2011. Pearl Jam had a 20th anniversary concert. It was their 20th birthday. They had it in Wisconsin, and one of the art pieces was a birthday cake. And all of the members of the band were drawn nicely as children, right? Kind of to depict them aging as a band and what have you. But Todd, you know, I'm just so excited. I didn't know you in your 20s. I didn't know you in your 30s. I didn't know you in your 40s. Like, I want to hear about who you. Oh, well, I guess. Wait, how old are you now? What are you?
What's that?
How old are you right now today?
I'm 24.
All right, yes. So anyways, you know, I want to hear the good side of aging, right? Like how
Todd and I
you
are the same age.
yeah, okay.
That's
And
right.
that made what's that make me 12? But you know,
Maybe.
Todd, the good thing of aging, right? Like how did you develop? What did you learn? What tools did you learn in those decades, right? And I want folks to get excited about aging. There's something to celebrate. That's why there's have birthday cakes and candles, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. I I like where I'm at right now. I mean, obviously I look back, I think it's kind of a tricky question, but I think as you get older, there's milestones that you hit in your life that are fun, and they can be fun, right? The fact that you know you're if you're a family person, you get to see your kids kind of go through all those little milestones in their life, and like Vanetta and I are talking about, you know, we've got a child that is graduating from high school, so there's all these little milestones. It's sad that they're leaving this behind, but I'm excited to see what they do in this next phase of life, where like with maturity, I know what my daughter is going to experience when she steps into a college or university. As far as just the overall impact of all of that. I'm excited for that. And on the aging part, I'm excited to be able to help and guide her because of what I've experienced. And I'm old enough now to where nobody can tell me what I can and can't do. Right. So I'm beyond the kid phase. And yeah, I think there's an excitement of being a little older. I think even too, like when we go out to little tiny like makeshift concerts and things like that with our friends, or going out to dinner, there's more mature conversation. It's just fun. I guess where you are in your life, even with work and business, you advance and you develop and you get seniority in different pieces and you have more responsibility. So it's everything that you work really hard for. I think it starts to happen for you later in life, and that's exciting. So.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Rosa, speaking of working hard, right? You've told stories on past shows about building helping hands and all of the subways you had to take to help those with, that needed your help, frankly. And you shared some, very vulnerable stories about your 20s and 30s. And I won't go any farther than that because I think you're what, 32, right? But anyways, I'd love to hear your take. Like, what has been your personal experience in the aging process? And what has been your mental takeaways?
I try really hard to just accept wherever I am at any place in time. With regard to age, for women, it's a little different because society judges youth more positively than, factors relating to an elderly, aging woman, and I've had questions in my mind, when am I going to turn into the cute old lady? Like I don't know where I am right now in the process. Like
You're just cute. Who cares about the old
you know,
lady?
so you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like I'm stuck in between, like I'm just myself, and it's a little weird, when people judge me to be significantly younger than I am because I'm not, so it's like, it's confusing, on some levels to 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 be a woman and to be in this aging process, but psychologically, I just want to be whatever I am. And I want to embrace whatever and wherever I am at a given point in time. And, the message that you get from society around you don't always support that, so it's a process. It's a little bit of a process, I do have to say. I'm proud of my accomplishments. I'm happy to be where I am at this point in my life. I am very happy to have the children that I'm so incredibly proud of, not just for their athletic and, academic accomplishments, but for the amazing people that they are, the way they treat others. I know that I've been a factor in their lives, a strong factor in their development. And I'm very proud of where I've what I've done. And, with Helping Hands, I absolutely feel a great sense of pride with all the kids and families that I know I've had an impact on, in helping. So, I mean, I look back, there's theories of aging. Erik Erikson puts, a life course theory, together, and just talks about different stages that people go through from birth all the way to death. And one of the stages that you experience as you grow older is generativity versus stagnation. So you could feel constantly generated to do new things, have new ideas, and be provoked, to keep producing and keep using your influence in life. Or, you could reach a place where you just feel very stagnant, like there's nothing left for you to do, no place for you to go. And it's sad, but basically says people kind of go towards, either pathway. And if you just think about Grandma Moses, all these wonderful historical figures who've accomplished so much in their lives at a significant point in their aging process, it's just a little reminder that it's never too late to make an impact. It's never too late to contribute, to society, or just even one person's life that you can make better, which is the point of Walking Tall. So I think age is, this is cliche, but it's just a number, and as long as
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
just
you're right. It is
it-
just a number. And, as I think about my aging, right? There are times I long for my 20s again, right? And having that athleticism and there's the cliche as you use the word, Dr. LaRosa, like if I only knew then what I knew now, right? Or what I know now. And to me, that does oftentimes hold true, right? Like I look back to the renegade I may have been in college, or how invincible I felt in high school, and then as I started to become a coach and work in baseball and make a career of it, the ego that in your 20s you kind of carry around, and as you age, you begin, in my experience at least, to find a purpose, right? And you guys both had mentioned your children, and of course I have two beautiful kids myself, and they've turned into my purpose, right? And if you would have told me in my 20s that I would have been more excited about a little league baseball game or a 10U soccer game for my daughter than I would be like having my Division I baseball team play against LSU or Augie Garrido at Texas, I would have said you're crazy, right? But now, tomorrow, we got soccer and we got little league, and even though today is my birthday, I can give a shit. I'm ready to go for tomorrow, and I'm worried about my kids, and so that provides purpose. And then, Todd, as you and I have experienced, our trauma, and the resiliency that we've gained as we've aged has also provided us a purpose, right? Once again, in our 20s, Todd or Dr. LaRosa, when you were building Helping Hands, and Todd, you were striking out AAA hitters, if you would have told the three of us, hey, you three would meet each other in your 40s or whatever decade you're in, and you're going to have traumatic experiences and not have been in the same room for over a year for the most part, which is what it's been, and still have this impact and this motivation to help others, I would have said you're full of it, right? But here we are, and I don't know that we would be in this position if we were in our 20s, maybe even in our 30s, right? We wouldn't have the strength, resiliency, confidence to be vulnerable, to be approachable, as you say, Todd, and to start this movement. And so, while I don't really necessarily like getting older, I am happy to do so because I feel like I have a new lease on life and I have a new purpose moving forward that is going to carry me throughout the rest of my life. And I'm just excited to be on that journey with you two. So on my 42nd birthday is maybe shitty of the last 2 years I've had. 40 was the experience of being in the shooting, and obviously the last year hasn't been easy for me, but aside from my kids, the one joy in my life has been this. And so I'm looking forward to 42 and what the Walking Tall movement has in store for the three of us. And Todd, with what all you're doing and how proud I know I am and Dr. LaRosa is of you, and Dr. LaRosa, the amazing work you're doing, still with Helping Hands and building our charity behind the scenes. Like, as far as I'm concerned, 42 is going to kick ass, and I'm excited for it. So, but before we sign off, Dr. LaRosa, I love you and thank you for the birthday wishes, but I would love just to get your final thoughts before I go and start celebrating.
well, you just put it so very well. Everything you said was just so eloquent and on
Yeah.
point, you know, with regard to using everything that we've been through to be where we are now, and not being able to predict in our 20s. But you put good things out and good things continue, to happen. And while we couldn't have predicted knowing each other and trying to do what we're doing now, we're doing it for a reason, right? The everything that we've set in motion, the way that we've lived our lives, sort of culminates. And if we weren't looking for the opportunities to help others and do what we're doing, we wouldn't have found it. So all of that is based on the foundation of who we've been as people, and where we are now and what we'll continue to do. And it's interesting. It's a reminder. I mean, I, of course, I never played any kind of pro sport or anything like you guys, but even just like 5 years ago, little league games, I could jump a fence. I could, like, I was very agile, I could do a cartwheel, because I used to be a gym. Now I try to do these things and I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like,
Yep.
why can't I do it? What's going on? I tried
Janetta,
to,
you're only 24. Come
I know.
on.
What are you talking about? You
Go.
just no, but it's so true. Then thank you for the kind words. And Todd, I feel like since I've gotten to know you July 7th, 2022, I've aged like physically 50 years and mentally, like, I couldn't even count, but you've helped me so much over the last 2 years and the last two birthdays. And so I can't thank you enough as well.
Wow. That's what we do, right? We're here for each other, and it's what we need more of. But I just thought of something, Chris. You're 42, I'm 24, Vanetta's 24, so we're opposite.
Yeah.
And you got to let us know what it feels like as you go through your 42nd year.
I was like, yeah, I'm telling you, like, I mean it, and so much of it is my stress, right? My trauma, my physical, like, aching. But man, oh man, that's been like the one thing I'm like, God dang it. Like, I don't want to age, but you know what? I would gladly take the physical ailments over the good work that we're doing in the world. And so what my one request is for my birthday this year, I would like any one of you that is listening, watching, whatever the case may be, please, 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 follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check us out at walkingtallmovement.com. Whatever it is that you can do to promote our movement and inspire others to be more approachable and vulnerable and to walk tall in their lives would make my 42nd year on earth a tremendous success. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as I got you two by my side, it's going to be a great year no matter what. And with that said, I love you both. Todd, last words are yours. Dr. LaRosa, anything else you want to say before we sign off? Check it out.
Happy
I'm going
birthday.
in podcast. Todd's doing great work, speaking engagements and amazing things. Dr. LaRosa, we got a lot of work to do to raise some money for the Walking Tall Foundation, but you're still killing it with Helping Hands. Do you want to say anything else before we go?
Yeah, just a quick thing. So cognitive behavior therapy has been really useful for people with certain ailments like rheumatoid arthritis. So it's effective in decreasing people's perceptions of pain and discomfort. So I think people should, look into that. If you're out there and you have some of these physical ailments, there are treatments that are really very effective and research based. So you should definitely look that up.
Was that a hint for me to go into that, Dr. LaRosa? Is that what you're saying?
It could
That's your
be.
birthday gift to me. Yeah. No, guys, listen, like always, our time together is so valuable and it just inspires me so much. And I can't wait for others to get a chance to hear this conversation when it airs. It won't be my birthday anymore, but so the last thing we do, we always give those two magic words to listeners, and Todd and Dr. LaRosa, I'd like you guys to lead us in that.
You what?
Happy birthday. Walk
That's right.
tall.
Walk
Happy
tall,
birthday,
everybody.
walk
Walk tall.
tall.
Love you guys. Have a great
Walk
rest of your week.
tall.